We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, June 27th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yejin and you're watching News Generation. Today we're joined by Choi Ji-hee.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, and Im Sang-yeop.
Good to see you guys.
Lovely to have you. Both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. Now we're going to head right into our main discussion of the day. Now, what comes to your mind when you think of the term generation gap? Now, many of you might picture differences in perspectives and ideologies between older and younger generations, but these days, some people are actually noticing these differences even among their peers. Take a look at the screen to find out more. A survey conducted by a domestic job search platform among more than 2,000 millennial and Gen Z office workers in Korea showed that almost 76% of respondents felt this way. By generation gap, they refer to differing views on work-life balance, interests, ways of thinking, workplace attire and etiquette, manners, and communication styles, including tone of voice. Interestingly, those surveyed noticed these differences most among their same-level colleagues, meaning those in the same age group. This finding suggests that feeling a generation gap may no longer be about age differences. What is causing the younger generation to feel so different from each other? Well, so let's first talk about the stat that we just saw in the VCR. So here in the studio, I want to ask you guys, do you also agree with this statistics? In other words, have you also felt this generation gap among your peers or colleagues in the same age group as you at work?
Well, surprisingly, there are times when I feel the generational gap as well, whether at work or even within my family, among my siblings as well. So simple matters such as arriving at the office earlier than expected to prepare in advance, or choosing personal time over team dinners, or differences in opinions about work attire illustrate the generational gap I experience with some colleagues of the same age group at work. Now, an interesting survey reveals which employees of which ranking feel the generation gap the most at work. So let's take a look at the screen to find out the results. So interestingly, it shows that staff members at the lowest level of the organization feel the generation gap the most. And the ones that are the managerial levels, like the general managers, assistant managers, and even the executives, they feel less of these gap compared to just the staff members who've just entered their work.
Right, so the fact that the stat shows that the lowest level employees actually feel the generation gap most, I think that refers to millennials and Gen Z because we have a shorter amount of experience at work when compared to our parents' generations or even the previous generations. And talking about Yuji, you've answered that you felt a generation gap among your family members too, and also your colleagues at work. Well, I can't really say whether I felt it or not because you guys all know who my colleagues are. So now I'm going to toss my question to Sang-yeop. So have you felt this generation gap too?
Actually, I felt this kind of generation gap when I'm teaching students at college. So when I was first hired as an instructor at the college, I first thought that I might be able to get along well with the students because I was one of the young instructors among the faculties. But it turned out we had some kind of different perspectives regarding the class and all the schedules. Whenever I send like notifications to the students about my class, there are often cases that some of them reply to my calls like several days later, or even some of them responded to me the day before the start of the class. So for me, this could be quite annoying because for me, smooth progress and fast progress of the work and the class are really important, but it turned out that for some students, that's not the case. And also, there were often cases when the students sent me an email, and it somehow sounded a bit casual or even rude, as if they're sending those emails to their friends. So as you can see here, even though I'm in the same generation group as my students, there were like cases that I felt kind of different gap with the students. So for me, I think the school is like the microscopic version of the society. So whenever I
right.
see these kind of students, I kind of worry whether they can actually keep their earnings in the society when they move on after the graduation. So with that being said, I feel like a konde, so I'll just stop here.
No, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
Speaking of students who communicate with their
Yeah, you also
instructors,
teach students,
yeah, I
right?
do. And I was quite shocked how I received Kakao Talks, the messenger app in Korea. I received messages late at night or even in the morning, like late mornings.
Right, right.
And I've told students to send their assignments through email, but they would just Kakao Talk me the files. So I was quite shocked.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Maybe I am a konde.
Oh, well, I think both of our panelists have a lot to say about today's topic, which is a good thing. Now, to point out once again, what was once considered differences in thoughts or behaviors between generations is now being spotted among younger people, as the examples that you guys just given. So we always want to know about the reason why, what's behind this. So why do you think that we are seeing these differences in thoughts or behaviors between similarly aged people?
Right. Well, in order to understand this phenomenon, I think it's important to understand the typical organizational culture here in the country.
Oh, right.
So the culture is usually characterized by a strong emphasis on hierarchy based on age and seniority, formal ways of addressing one another, a collectivist mindset as well, and the significance of dinner gatherings for bonding.
Which we call 회식.
Yes, which we call 회식, which Eugen really likes.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
And the value placed on teamwork. So although it's often said that millennials and Gen Zs have brought about significant changes compared to the older generation, there are still individuals within the younger generation who maintain that traditional mindset. I guess because they grew up with the parents who have these mindsets that could have influenced them.
Right.
But this difference in mindset is leading to a generational gap even within the younger generation. And I think the gaps and clashes also occur because the MZers tend to be very individualistic. They have a strong character and always are willing to voice out their opinions.
Right. So that could basically or kind of clash with the younger generation who have what we are used to calling as traditional mindsets, which could lead to these differences in thoughts and behaviors. Now, Sang-hyuk, is there anything that you would like to add regarding the reasons why we're seeing these differences?
Yeah, sure. So as Ji mentioned, we can often find this gap within the generation in the corporate space. There are some MZers who clearly set the boundary between the work and their lifestyle. But meanwhile, there are also young people who prefer to work overtime so they can get the benefits later on, maybe like a promotion in the future. And also, when it comes to the perspective towards one's lifestyle, we can also see the generation gap within the same age groups. Few years ago, I remember the YOLO syndrome hitting Korea greatly, and there were some youth who pursue the YOLO lifestyle. But at the same time, there are also some young people who are interested in financial investments and who tend to save their assets for their retirements. So you can see here that there is a different ideas and gap even within the same age group. And I think this is because the Gen Zs and our generation are so eager to express our opinions that we are seeing this clash of conflicts.
So as much as we like to express ourselves, I think that we're seeing a more diverse range of thoughts, ideologies, and etc. Now, for those of you who want to know more about what this generation gap is, as it's like fairly a new term, to give you a better understanding, we actually prepared a short skit for you so that you could which could help you understand today's topic better. So let's get into action.
All right.
Yes.
Right, so I am currently playing the role of the new manager of a team, and Ji-hee and Sang-hyuk, they are my what should I call them?
Subordinates or
Yeah.
the juniors?
Yeah, they're my
She's our
junior
boss.
workers.
She's our new boss.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the boss today. So right, and to congratulate my new position as a manager, I really want to have a nice lunch with my two lovely colleagues, Ji-hee and Sang-hyuk. So what do you think?
Ready, action. Shall we start?
Yes, we
Ready?
shall.
Okay.
Action.
Oh, hello, our boss 부장님. 부장님, so you're new here.
I
Did
am.
you want to have lunch with us?
Yes, I really, really want to have lunch with both of you.
Uh-huh.
So I wish that we could set a time so that we could grab delicious lunch together.
Okay, you were gonna buy us, right? Treat us.
Of course,
Okay,
because I'm the boss.
Okay, well, I'll ask Sang-hyuk if he's willing to join as well, okay?
Okay.
Sang-hyuk, so we have our new boss here, and she wants to have lunch with us today. Would you like to join? She really wants to have lunch with both of us.
Sorry, Jay. Recently, I'm on this new diet. I brought chicken breast and protein bars for today's lunch, so I think I will not be able to attend the lunch.
Oh, but can you postpone your diet? Or, I mean, you have lunch every day, you know, it's just today.
Sorry. Hey, lunch hour is my personal time. Our boss does not have the right to disturb it.
Okay, well, don't
Sorry.
blame me if the boss starts hating you, okay?
I'm fine. I'm totally cool with it.
All right.
I'm gonna write Sang-hyuk's name down on my blacklist.
All right, so we ended up having lunch.
Just the two of us.
Yes.
Sang-hyuk had his chicken breast and his own healthy
I'm the
meal
typical
plan.
MZ.
Right. So this kind of shows the what we call the generation gap that's being experienced among millennials and Gen Z. Ji, I think you represented a more traditional mindset where you think that if your boss wants to have lunch together, then why
Yeah,
not have
exactly.
lunch together? Because it's a collectivist and office culture here in Korea is still kind of like a hierarchical culture. While on the other hand, Sang-hyuk kind of represented the what do we call
The
it?
typical
Individual.
MZers who value the work and life balance.
Yeah, who are really self-expressive and etc. So I hope that our skit helped you guys understand what this generation gap we're talking about today. Now, to expand our discussion even further, we also asked our viewers in what situations or for what reasons they clash with their peers, and here's what 3 of them said. So if we look at the comments, Brodo Kiba says Gen Z colleagues often bring a fresh perspective with their strong digital skills and desire for quick feedback. Millennials, on the other hand, tend to emphasize collaboration and work-life balance more prominently. Infantry says, I work for the government and a good portion of MZ want to have expanded teleworking schedules, but of course, what we do is very people-oriented, so there is a big push to go back into the office. This has had some divisive reactions from new workers. Leon says, for me, millennials are more comfortable with a mix of communication styles, including email, phone calls, and video conferencing. Gen Z are highly digital and prefer instant communication through text messages, messaging apps, and online collaboration tools. So based on the comments from our viewers, we can definitely see that the younger generation, the millennials and Gen Z, are feeling a difference in how they think, how they work, for example, in the office environment. So we're definitely seeing a generation gap in other parts of the world among the younger generation as well. Now, to find out even further whether this is an issue that's prevalent in other parts of the world, we're going to invite a millennial who has experience working in both Korea and the United States. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Today we're joined by Jera Lim, a product manager at Adobe in San Francisco. She has experience working both in Korea and the United States. Welcome, Jera, to the show.
Hello, hi, nice to meet you all.
Great, it's great to have you. So our first question for you, Jera, is could you just briefly introduce yourself a bit more for our viewers and also share your experience of working in Korea?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Jared Lim. I am currently living in San Francisco, working as a product manager at Adobe. I came to US 3 years ago to do my MBA at Duke and graduated last year and joined Adobe as a full-time. Before coming to US, I used to work at Samsung Card for 5 years, and I was also a product manager there, mostly working on managing online payments and building new fintech services on our app. And I decided to come to US because as a product manager, I developed my future career goal to work at Silicon Valley one day and build a product that can deliver impact to millions of people. And I'm still working towards to my end goal, but I believe I'm at a good starting point since I am at Silicon Valley now.
I see. You seem to be building a great career over there.
Right.
Well, while working in Korea, though, did you experience this generation gap that we're talking about, or differences in ways of thinking and lifestyle with colleagues who were similar in age to you?
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting question because you're asking me about the generation gap with the people who are in my generation. So I would say, yes, I did notice some sort of generation gap, even between the people around my ages. So, for example, many of my peers were more traditional in their approach to work and hierarchy and placing a strong emphasis on seniority and formalities. And in contrast, I value more casual and collaborative work environment. And I am personally type of person who always question the rationale behind the decision and value open discussion. So, like sort of never say no culture was something that I couldn't resonate. And additionally, I think lifestyle preference varied. So with some colleagues preferring to spend their free time in ways that aligns with the traditional Korean culture, such as, like 회식, which is like group dinner, like a lot of like boundings between the teammates, whereas I lean more towards to spending time doing my own personal activities and balancing out my work life and personal life. So I think this differences highlighted like unique cultural context and generational influence that presents in Korean workplace.
I can totally relate to that because I'm also against the 회식 culture as well. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Did you experience something similar when you were working in the States? How does it compare to working in Korea?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there's like no generation gap here in US. I mean, even here, people make tons of joke about generation gap between like Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, and Boomer. It's like a famous joke in Instagram. And even like between the similar generations, there is definitely different ways of thinking. But however, I feel it's certainly less pronounced compared to Korea. And from my point of view, the large part of this difference comes from the individualistic culture in the US. So American society is more diverse in culture, nationality, and ethnicity. So people are just more used to embracing differences and respecting the boundaries. In contrast, Korean society is pretty much community-based, focusing on finding commonalities between each other. And this fundamental cultural difference dilutes the generation gap and conflicts in the US, as people are trained to respect not only the difference between culture, but also differences in their personalities across generation and also differences in their mentality.
That was really like a sharp analysis. Now, last but not least, Gerald, I want to ask you, in your opinion, what is one way we can bridge the differences among similarly aged colleagues?
Yeah, so I think the key is to respect each other's differences in life value, not just like related to ages, but in all aspects. And one toxic trait that I observed in Korean society is the lack of tolerance for diversity in cultural, ethical, and mindset difference. So I think addressing this problem will definitely help. And to give more practical answer, fostering open communication among colleagues is essential. I think personally it's important to not monitor or record these conversations because many fear like facing disadvantages for voicing out their opinions. And also I think treating everyone's opinion equally and not weighing them differently based on like what's their position, what's your age, and how long have you been in this org. Like I think these things shouldn't be matter. Everyone's opinion have to be treated equally. And another opinion that I have is probably incentivizing the ideas that could be helpful for enhancing the work culture can also motivate people to participate more on building the healthy work culture.
Some great advice to end off. All right, thank you, Jira, so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. So last but not least, back to us here in the studio. What do you think are some of the ways we can resolve the conflicts? You can just expand on what Jera said or anything in your opinion.
Well, I just want to echo what Jera said. We must always remember that we can't force someone to change, An easier way to get along with different people is to really adopt an open and flexible mindset towards differences. So really try to understand and respect the different perspectives that others have.
Right. I think it's always really important to understand and put yourself into the shoes of others because it's such a colorful society nowadays. Now, what is your advice, Sang-yeop?
Well, I think it's a good sign that we're seeing different and diverse mindsets within the same generation because with that being said, we can create a society where we can accept more diverse ideas and opinions, and we can also openly discuss about those different kinds of things. So as every people have their own different colors, I think that's what makes our society even more lively.
Right, definitely. So I hope that our discussion today helps those who are facing this generation gap among similarly aged people. And NewsGen is here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks today to Choi Ji-hee
Always a pleasure.
and Yoon Sang-yeop.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.